everyone. I am here in the great South Pasadena, California, and today we're going to do a little something different. Today we're going to visit the filming locations of one of my favorite horror movies of all time, 1978 John Carpenter classic, Halloween. Alright, so right behind me is just some regular old house, but for Halloween fans, this is where the Meyers House used to be before it was bought and moved right down the street over there. Yeah, how do I tell? Because of this house in the background, and I guess this is probably the tree that was like the first shot when it pans over to the house. Yeah, this is now a new like apartment complex, I think, housing complex. But this used to be where the Meyers house used to be at. And I'm still glad that person went in and bought the house, because we could have lost a piece of horror history. Now, to get a better perspective of where the house used to be, film opened, I believe, on this tree, and it pans over to here where the house originally sat, and then Michael walks on, from Michael's POV, walks on over there, and goes up and murders his sister. So yeah, it's I believe here where the house originally stood, because I looked at the film and pinpoint these two houses in the background, in which I believe this is where the spot used to be. And of course, there's also one shot here where Lori's walking over to school that way, and Michael was like right here and staring at her, and she starts singing a little song. I wish I had you all alone, just the two of us. So the next location we'll be taking a look at is the Stro House. So in the original Halloween, you may know the one iconic scene where Laurie holding a pumpkin that you're gonna carve out with Tommy Doyle. She was sitting right here. I'm sitting where Jamie Lee Curtis sat. Like, it's so cool. There's a pumpkin right over there. But yeah, this house is the Stro House where Laurie lived. It's just so amazing to be here, and mainly just sitting in that same spot where Laurie sat in Halloween. Our very first introduction of Laurie Stro, she comes out through this door and starts walking down right where I'm heading right now, to which her father coming out through that exact same door and tells Laurie, don't forget to drop the key off at the Meyers place, to which she promises, and continues to walk down that way to the Meyers house to drop the key off. And then later after school, after the hedge scene, she comes around through here, walks on the grass, and then walks through this walkway she was going to walk to that door, but ended up walking over there, and she heard some trick-or-treaters from right over there at that house, and then she goes into this house. And of course, later on, Lori comes out through this door again, this time holding a pumpkin, and would sit right here, waiting for Annie to pick her up, and also looking at trick-or-treaters. Now, when she looks that way, the houses there are almost the same. But when she looks over there, it's obviously a completely different neighborhood because they shot it somewhere else. And then Annie would stop by here and pick up Lori to go to their respective houses to go babysitting. And yeah, that is the Stro House. If you're ever near the Stro House, across the street, there's this bench with a plaque. This bench is dedicated to producer Mustafa Abad. It reads, "In loving memory of Mustafa Abad, known to the world as the godfather of the Halloween film series, your legacy lives on. Filmed in South Pasadena, 1978. Rest in peace, Mustafa Abad." So after Lori leaves her house, we cut to here, this scene where we see Lori walk here and then cross the street here and then walks down here, and we see Tommy Doyle run over to her, and from here they would walk on over to drop the key off at where it used to be the Meyers House. We're from Haddonfield, couldn't be prouder. Can't hear us now? Well, we'll yell a little louder. Now for this location, I'm here at South Pasadena High School. This was dubbed as Haddonfield High School for this one scene where Lori and Linda walk down from here and then continue to walk out. Lori speaks about how she forgot her chemistry book. So Linda's like, "So what? I always forget my chemistry book." And somewhere, I think somewhere here is where the sign Haddonfield High School is. Now obviously the school has changed. These stairs were never there, and I think this was never there. But this spot is still very familiar to Halloween fans. So for this location, I am here at Garfield Elementary School. In Halloween, this was the elementary school that Tommy goes to. And in this scene right here, Tommy, along with 3 bullies who were obviously bullying him, scaring him with like boogeyman, like, "Boogeyman, boogeyman, boogeyman's coming, boogeyman's gonna get you." Which Tommy was like, "Leave me alone," and they keep continuing scaring him about the boogeyman. To which one of the bullies trips Tommy, landing on his pumpkin. To which the kids would start running out, one of them bumping into Michael like right here. And to which the kid would run away, and Michael would follow Tommy. And then he goes into his car and continues to follow Tommy. The playground has changed a lot over the years, but so yeah, Michael would follow Tommy, and then Tommy leaves through this gate right there, And Michael continues to like follow Tommy through the car in his car until he drives off. Also in Garfield Elementary School is the interiors for a classroom in Hatfield High School. Yes, they used an actual high school for the exterior, but used an elementary school for the interior. So this was during the scene where Laurie's in class and she looks through this window. This is the very spot. And then she was looking out the window only to see Michael standing right there, right where the car is. She would look away to answer a question, but when she looks out the window again, Michael in the car disappeared. Now, the house has changed a lot, but I am 100% sure that this was the spot. So for this location, we see Laurie and Linda walk down this neighborhood, and later Annie appears and join along. They walk down this spot and walk over where I'm at. I always have to look both ways to make sure no cars come by. Pretty much retracing their steps to right here. And Laurie Meyers House, she forgot her chemistry book, and Linda's like, so what? I always forget my chemistry book. Yeah, she lists off all the other books she forgets, and then I was like, who needs books anyway? So there we see Michael drives over there. Linda thought it was a guy named Devon Graham. And then it is here where Annie would yell, "Hey jerk, speed kills." And Michael stops like somewhere right there. It's like right there. And Annie was like, can't you take a joke? Now, we're about to see the most iconic and location from Halloween. Now, right next to me, this is Linda's house, but we're not focused on that. No. We're here to focus on the infamous hedge, where Michael would have been standing behind here. Oh well, there's nothing there. Oh well. Now, this hedge, you might remember in a scene where Laurie and Annie were walking home from school when Laurie notices Michael Myers, basically right where I'm standing. And he told to Annie, like, hey, I think I saw something. To which Annie goes over there and goes, hey, you creep. Oh, Laurie, dear. Someone likes to talk to you. Wants to take you out on a date. I just love reciting these lines in these famous locations. I like that the people who own this house or hedge put up this "Welcome to Haddonfield" sign. That's the thing, since they already know that a lot of fans come here to recreate that shot of Michael sitting next to the hedge. Now, to give a better perspective of the hedge from the girl's perspective, once again, I gotta point out that this house right there, that is Linda's house, where Laurie and Annie say goodbye to Linda. She goes to that house. And as you know, Michael Myers was standing right there. Laurie tells Annie that he sees someone behind the bush. Annie walks over to that bush and goes, hey, creep. And then proceeds to go, Laurie, dear, he wants to talk to you. He wants to take you out tonight. And of course, Lori walked over to the hedge, see that no one's there, and Annie would go, "Oh, Lori, scared another one away." Now, behind this other hedge, this is the Brackett house, where Annie and her father, Sheriff Brackett, lived. And it was right here that Lori was looking back at the hedge, and then right here bumps into Sheriff Brackett, and later tells Lori, "You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare." Now for this location, I'm here at the Sierra Madre Pioneer Cemetery in Sierra Madre, California, in the scene where Loomis goes and visits the grave of Judith Meyers. Now, in the scene, Loomis and the cemetery worker drove up and stopped somewhere here between these two headstones. And then they start walking over to the spot. I couldn't precisely retrace their steps, but I could go to the very locate spot of where, at least what I believe and a lot of people might believe, where the grave of Judith Meyers was. So the guy tells a story about a guy in Russellville. Didn't get to finish the story when Loomis asked, "Where are we?" And he's like, "Oh, and it's right up there." And then they passed this specific gravestone, Sinclair. And it is believed that somewhere in this general area is, or at least somewhere in this general area is where the gravestone of Judith Meyers used to be before Michael dug it up and stole it. And he's like, "Damn it, why do these kids always do this? They always like to do things on Halloween." And then Loomis asked, "Whose grave was it?" And they started counting, and he's like, "Judith Meyers." And then Loomis goes, "He came home." Now for this location, I'm here between El Centro Street and Meridian Avenue, where Annie and Lori were driving down this street down there to go to their respective houses to go babysitting at, and Michael would park somewhere near here, probably where that car is or between where the car is. And it's here that we will transition to another location. Now, this place is a diner, but to us Halloween fans, this is the hardware store. So yeah, in Halloween, this used to be the hardware store. This is what we believe where Michael Myers got his mask, the modified Captain Kirk mask, and some kitchen knives and some rope. Now, what's important about this location is that this was important for two scenes, even though they're all the same scene, but there's like two moments in the same scene, which is where Annie picked up Lori to go to their respective houses for them to go babysit. They drove from over there, and he drove there only for Annie to see his father, because Sheriff Brackett, who was responding to the break-in of the hardware store. Annie was like, "What happened?" Annie was like, "What happened?" And Sheriff Brackett just blamed the whole thing on kids. And Annie's like, "You blame everything on kids." So, and later in that scene, when Annie left, Loomis came in and had a conversation with Brackett about Michael, that he's on the loose. And in that same shot, probably where I am, Michael was actually right behind Lori and Annie. So And Loomis was there. He was just facing where I'm facing, and he just drove by without even noticing that his patient was just right behind him. So we're moving away from South Pasadena to the beautiful, lustrous Hollywood. I'm heading over to Orange Grove Avenue to visit two locations where the bulk of the movie takes place, and that is the Doyle and Wallace House. While South Pasadena has like a lot of movies filmed here, I don't know if there's any other horror movies shot around this area. At least not that I could, any I could think of. Oh well. So I'm here. This is what would have been the Wallace House. Now, this is where little Lindsay Wallace and the family lives. Also where Annie was babysitting little Lindsay while her parents are away on Halloween. And also where most of the killings take place. Where Annie was murdered somewhere there, in the car, in their garage. Bob in the kitchen, and Linda upstairs, the parents' room. And yeah, today the house is a lot different. Mainly they added this garage and upper section, but like this area from there is like kind of the same since. And you probably notice that there's at the front door, like the house ends where the door is at, and once Linda and Bob go in, there's like a whole other section. So I believe they shot it at one of these two houses. Yeah, this is where most of the killings and some of the iconic shots of like Michael standing there, and Michael carrying Annie's corpse after killing her. Yeah, this is the Wallace House. So I am here at the Doyle House. This is where Tommy Doyle and his family lived, and also where Laurie babysat Tommy while Annie was babysitting Lindsay in the house over there. Now this house is where the climax, the ending of the film takes place, where Michael goes after Laurie checks on the Wallace house, sees the bodies of Annie, Bob, and Linda. She goes back to the house, tells the kids to hide, and then later go to the Mackenzie's house to call the police. And Loomis finds the house. Michael attacks Laurie, and Loomis would shoot Michael 6 times for falling from the balcony to the backyard. Unless if you watch Halloween 2, Michael comes out from the front of the house and out the back. And yeah, the house hasn't changed a lot. I mean, the door where Michael came out through in Halloween 2 has now been replaced by just a window. And pillars have changed, but the house still looks the same. I like the Wallace house. Yeah, and in that house comes one of my favorite lines of the entire Halloween, in the entire film, is when after Loomis shot Michael, Laurie asked, "Was the boogeyman?" To which Loomis responded, "As a matter of fact, it was." Now, it's probably come as no surprise that they never shot any of the interiors in both of these houses. here's where they actually shot the interiors. Starting with the Doyle House, the interiors were shot inside this house. Now you might recognize this house from when Laurie was being chased by Michael Myers. She came out through here, she tripped and fell over here, got up, went to this house, started knocking on the door, screaming, begging for help. The neighbors turned on the light, looked out through the window. She's begging for help. Ultimately, they turned off the light, just ignoring her, thinking it was just a Halloween prank, before Laurie just goes to the Doyle house. Now notice when she's banging on the door in the Doyle house, the doorknob was on one side, but once she got in, the doorknob was on the other side. Well, it's because they shot it in this house. Now, as for the Wallace house, remember earlier when I said that the house ends where the front door is? Well, the interiors for the Wallace house were in this house, which also includes the garage and laundry room scenes. And yeah, those are the interiors for the Doyle house and the Wallace house. Before we get to our final filming location, if you're ever in the South Pasadena area visiting filming locations for Halloween, then I highly recommend you check out the Sugarmynt Gallery. I am not sponsored by them, though I wish I am. It is a nice little art gallery, not only containing artwork from the Halloween franchise, but also other movies like Trick or Treat and Hocus Pocus. It is right behind the Meyers House. I'll put the links to their socials and website down below. And yeah, go check it out. I highly recommend it. So, I decided to save this location for last, even though I should have put it in the beginning. But I am here at the Meyers House. This used to be an old colonial house, made around the 1800s. And this house was big enough to be used as the home of Michael Myers and the Myers family. And up there in that room, this is where, and up there, that window, this is the room where Michael Myers, as a little boy on Halloween night 1963, that he murdered his older sister. And for 15 years, he was locked up until he escaped. He came home. Now, this house was almost gone. Like, after the release of Halloween, the house was almost set to be demolished until, thankfully, someone bought the house and moved it down the street. And the person who bought it didn't even know that this was part of horror legacy. So, it's great that this still survives for fans to see. And I just can't believe I'm here at the Meyers house. So yeah, that is the Meyers house. To give the perspective of the very first scene of Halloween in the point of view of Michael Myers. So Michael would walk up to the house. I am retracing his steps. Looks through this window to see her sister Judith and her boyfriend kissing on the couch. And then they later went upstairs, to which Michael goes back to the front of the house, looks up at this window to see the lights go out, to which Michael goes to the back of the house, through the door, into the kitchen, grabs a kitchen knife, and then later sees her sister's boyfriend leave the house, which was like probably the fastest sex in cinema history. Michael goes upstairs to that same room, murders his older sister, and then after that, he goes downstairs, out the front door, only to see his parents coming home. And when his dad takes off the mask, the camera switches to where I am right now and pans back. Just like that. And then the scene ends. And I thought it'd be fun that I walk up the steps of the Meyers house to be like this close to it. Like, I can't believe I'm standing here at the Meyers house. Like, it's so cool. So cool.